when I had a TV show CA called The United Shades of America.
Seen it.
For very good show. Congratulations. 7 years. I traveled around the country talking to all sorts of people. And we did an episode that some of the episodes came from me. Some of the episodes came from the news being like, you have to start with this because the news is talking about it. But one that came from me was about California wildfires. Because I live in California. My family's we've never had our house burned down, but we've been in situations where the air got bad because of a fire hundreds of miles away. So we had to figure out, we can't stay here because I have asthma. My mom's 80. We have to sort of figure out, so one time we were refugees to Las Vegas because it was the cheapest place we could go.
You think on a refugee.
Yeah, no, it was just like, and people thought it was like, that's Michigan got rich. I'm like, the flights from Oakland to Las Vegas are like $60. They're not, that's not good. And Vegas gives away hotel rooms. It's not that complicated. So, yeah, we were like, well, I don't know if we should include the part where you, back to Las Vegas. We took Southwest. We didn't, sorry that you paid me well. I can take my family on a Southwest flight to Vegas and turn in some points to get a hotel room. Sorry, CNN. For the heated discussion. We don't want you to look successful. Okay. Which is a true discussion. So, when I say that to say that, like, I want to do an episode about California wildfires. And one of the things I learned is that, you talk to Indigenous folks, like, look, they're like, who've lived there since, as they say, time immemorial. Wildfires have always been a part of California, but Indigenous folks knew how to deal with them.
Yes.
You have to make sure that you clear the brush off the ground so that if there is a fire, it doesn't spread quickly. You have to make sure that you prune the trees every now and again to make sure that if there is a fire, it doesn't catch everything on. You have to kill the dead trees. You have to pull. So they were literally taking care of the land because they're like, we're not going to beat fire.
That's not why we're here.
Yeah. Also, there are literally species of like plants and trees in California that need the fire. Like the fire actually activates them to grow. So it's like, we will not want the fire. The problem is that, I will say the white man, they would say colonialists came in and just didn't respect any of our knowledge and didn't have their own knowledge to replace it with. And decided we're going to build houses in the middle of the redwood forest, and we're not going to clean the ground, and we're not going to sweep the earth, and we're not going to pay attention. And now towns are burning down. For, again, as you say, it's not that this, and there's sort of the sense of like, it is climate change, but there's also a disrespect of the knowledge that existed that knew how to live in these situations.
I think that's paramount because I don't think that, I think there's a whole science to the way people lived that is disregarded now as being pseudoscience, when obviously it operated just fine without you. And that, when I think of colonization, the book I'm working on now, which is a bit of a hot take, it sort of tries to take the concept of demonic possession and associate it with the idea of colonization. Which is to say, colonization will extract everything about who you are and fill it with what they want you to be. Right. And now you have to, if you're going to exist in the system in which we have to live and have to operate, you have to slowly shed these things that might have been important to you, going all the way back to things like knowledge of how to deal with these fires. Now you don't know. And over time, you can't possibly teach that to someone else because it's no longer about who you are. And that to me is the same thing as something possessing. I mean, quite literally, enslavement was possession, but that possession continues. And so then the question comes is, how do you exercise that? And is exorcism in that, is it even a thing that can happen in the state that we're in?
I mean, so right now we're in the middle of America being possessed.
That's it. The whole country.
We're in the middle of demonic possession. I would say that's a great way to put it. There's so many ways you can put it. One of the things I learned over the course of United Shades, and a lot of lefty folks who are watching this are like, yeah, of course, is that American capitalism is the enemy of most situations in America. Like, it's sort of like that's the evil force. Well, and a lot of my social friends like, oh, just a few now for you. Sorry, I was just not studying all these texts directly. I was doing stand-up comedy. And so all that means is that, if you're, any sort of like, and I'm just sort of using my knowledge from The Exorcist, but like to get out a demon, you have to do dramatic things.
Yes.
The Exorcist doesn't end with like, just take this echinacea pill, so there has to be a dramatic reset, like some sort of like big thing that happens to get rid of the demon. And I think Americans have to find out, do you have the appetite?
Oh my God.
Because otherwise the demon's going nowhere.
Nowhere. Go back and watch America. Please go back and watch Exorcist and watch what they went through.
Yeah, no, there's not a patch that she puts on. There's not a like get a good night's sleep and you'll be fine. There's not yoga, it doesn't cure it. You know, it's not a Pilates. It's not a matcha. It's not a matcha latte. It's not an app that you download. If you download the prayer app,
it's going to get you out of there. But that I remember watching. I quite like horror movies just in general.
See, I'm the opposite.
Really? See The Exorcist?
Yes, I mean, because I had a white friend who liked horror movies, so there was a period where I had to watch all of them. But I am actively not a fan of horror movies, which is funny because Jordan Peele's whole career is about black horror movies, and I watched Get Out, and I was like, that's great. I'm going to support the rest of you to beg, knocking him back for any more of your horror movies.
It wasn't even scary. It was good though.
Which one?
Get Out.
And your partner's white?
My partner is biracial. I remarried, so I was married, and I have 2 children that are biracial, and then my current white is biracial.
So for me, Get Out. This can be our disagreement moment. I saw the trailer. I was like, that looks amazing. I don't need to see it. I lived through it with my wife and her my in-laws. I've lived through this. I don't need to see. I don't want to go back. It looks amazing. It looks amazing. So then I saw it, and you know it is great, and then the end of it is like a classic horror movie with so it's like all slasher, which it was fine. It's great. And then my wife Melissa was like, "Who doesn't like horror movies?" She's like, "Should I see it?" I was like, "No. First of all, you don't like horror movies. Second of all, it would be way too triggering.
You're gonna have to attack.
Yeah, no, it's too on the nose for us. A little bit feels like we should sue him, but like, hey man, it's my personal business because I've been around these white people in my wife's family, not like just because extended family, because it's not always the in-laws and the few in-laws that you have the issue with. It's the cousins and the uncle, the extended family. We end up in conversations about voting for Obama a third time, or worse, because that's not the worst. The worst is like, y'all are just going to talk about Obama like that, and I'm right here.
That's it.
Like you don't like him, and you just feel free to just yammer down. Why don't you guys Google me before you finish the conversation? Because I'm a
done in that situation.
So for me, like horror, like for me, and I get a lot of black horror movies, but for me, I'm like, I feel like I'm already in a horror movie called The United States of America.
That's a fact. I mean, there's no question that
every day I feel like I've seen the horror movie where you're walking down the hallway like, hello. Hello.
This is why when black people see something scary, they're not waiting around. They're not wandering down the hall with the flashlight now because they already know what that feels like.
Yeah. So I'm not a. So yeah, you like horror movies?
I do love and Get Out. When I watched Get Out, I had a bunch of different reactions to how well he organized the narrative, reactions to how well he filmed it, like to bring in these really traditional horror movie tropes and camera styles was just fantastic. Mm-hmm. That one scene where Lakeith, when he turns around and he got that face, I was like, I've been there. I know this. I do know this.
Yeah.
That for me was like none of the slashery stuff. That was legit scary.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of sentiment around getting into the sunken place.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
That is because he has given black culture like ways to talk about things, a common language.
That's it.
And common references. Like for me, though, even though whatever I think about the movie, again, it's great. I just not a horror movie fan. The scene where the woman's no. I use that meme part 4 times a week.
Just say email. Every response to every email.
Yeah.
Her responder.
Yeah.
Do you think that that black people now are in the sunken place? Do you think of them in that there's part of our culture, there are several people?
I think it's funny. I think the thing that makes me most frustrated, not most, I don't think black people are in the sunken place. I think that, we talked about this before. Black people as a whole, we're not a monolith. And it's funny we talk about, I used to say that on United Shades, and then I heard people say, stop. It's sort of, black people, we get very quickly tired of the thing once it becomes text.
Yeah.
So like, it's fine when we're sort of like, oh, dude, that's a good expression. But when it becomes something that white people feel comfortable to say,
yes,
we say like, whoa, we haven't said whoa for over 10 years as a serious thing. Yes. Probably around Ferguson, it was at its high, and then it's sort of like, we said, okay, we're done with that. Black people not a monolith became such a shorthand cut of saying we're all different that I think it became too sort of like ubiquitous. So we are not a monolith, but also that expression is not complicated enough.
Yeah.
because we still, as you know, when you talk, I'm gonna quote you from earlier. We still need to move as a unit occasionally,
Yes.
as much as we can.
We need to be thinking monolithically. We need to be able to at least orient ourselves to the parameters of who we are.
Yes.
Similar value systems and all of that. I guess I ask about the relationship to the sunken place, because I do think that there's these sort of automatic responses that Black people will have to certain things that don't go any deeper, and they don't resonate to a place that feels like a common language. It's like they just like you might see Karen walk in and this immediate anger versus like maybe the way we're operating this business, where we're thinking about this business, isn't an invitation for people like a Karen. And I see people like Candace Owens. Well, I don't have any. I don't love or hate Kings. She has the thoughts that she has.
You have no opinion about Candace Owens?
And then I have opinions about, like, I think she's putting on a show, personally.
Is it a good show?
It's a terrible fucking show.
Okay, I was just saying, it's not like I hadn't heard a Black person go. I had no love or hate. I mean, I just think you only try to put her on your.
No, her opinions are a different thing. But when I see her on my screen, my reaction isn't, I want to battle Candace Owens.
Yeah.
My reaction is, me move that out of my purview.
I want to battle the ideas. I don't want to battle Candace Owens. Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like maybe I'm numb to like the two constantly being a state of confrontation. And so, is that a sunken place? Is my question.
So I think that one of the problems that we have as a society, but specifically Black people, is that I can open up my phone right now and open up like my Instagram app or my Threads app, and I can see different versions of Black people having the same conversation from different angles. And if I follow this one, I'm like, we're in a sunken place. And if I follow this one, I'm like, oh, we're about to break. We're in the midst of overcoming. And those are happening I think it's because my algorithm is sort of schizophrenic, because I just sort of look at lots of things, which I am great about. But so it means that, like, I can turn on, this is a great example of a recent thing. On my algorithm, there are people who are like Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman from Texas. She's sort of like she's sort of like what Cori Bush used to do, sort of like she's the one who speaks, Black woman who's out in the world, speaking very directly, feet to power, indicting the MAGA Republicans at every turn, and has a little bit of swag or a lot of swag. So she's able to do it in a way that feels like that pops. It goes viral.